Welcome back to another episode of Weights and Wealth. What's so funny?
Nick with the clap.
Okay, so this is another episode of Weights and Wealth. This is Micronutrients Part 2. So Ted got some water between the last one and this one, so hopefully he can make it through the whole thing.
Gonna hope my throat doesn't murder me on this one like the last one, and we'll try to go a bit quicker too, because I know that was kind of slow. Nick here almost fell asleep, so can't have that happening.
It's been a long week. We're in the middle of tax season right now. So this week's shout out goes to Colin from Columbus, who left us a 5-star review on iTunes. He said, "These guys put on a professional, well-edited and researched and entertaining podcast that I consistently enjoy. I think they have it all figured out."
Do we have it all figured out, Nick?
I think we do. No. Maybe once we get some decorations and an actual studio, we'll have it figured out. So thank you, Colin. We appreciate it. And then this week's wealth wisdom of the week is to buy assets and not liabilities/expenses. So these are things that will produce future income and not things that will continually cost you money. I know we talked a little bit about that with Robert Kiyosaki's book, but buying things like rental properties, stocks, and not extravagant cars and things like that.
I was going to say, when you started with that wealth wisdom of the week, are you plagiarizing Robert Kiyosaki there? Because it sounds right out of his handbook. So
yeah, that's pretty common knowledge. I think yeah. And then the intro article this week is that in 2009, bodybuilding.com had to recall 65 supplements because they may have contained anabolic steroids. This is a big problem in the supplement industry because it's not regulated at all. So you don't really know what you're getting when you purchase a supplement. That's why it's really important to get third-party tested supplements and from a legitimate third party. I know some third parties aren't necessarily third parties. They are related to the companies that are making the product. But it's important that you do your research before you go and buy some of these supplements. And then we have that all moms think that supplements are steroids, which is not true. I know when I started taking creatine in high school, my parents made me stop taking it because they thought it was a steroid.
Why do all moms think that creatine is steroids?
I don't know. I really don't know.
It's like, well, if I'm taking steroids right now, you are also eating steroids because every time we have meat or fish for dinner, you're getting creatine.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and your body makes it too.
Yeah,
and there were those articles that, or the research that came out that it's bad for your kidneys or something like that, but those have been debunked many times.
Creatine's great for you, as we've said before. We believe it's pretty much just a health supplement at this point, not just a muscle building supplement. So if you're not taking creatine, very cheap. We recommend you take creatine. We recommend everyone takes creatine.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about a lot of it before, but it also boosts cognitive function, and it has been shown to help with depression and preventing depression.
Some of my favorite studies are the studies that show that when vegans start supplementing with creatine, their IQ increases by like 10 points.
Really?
I just think it's funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, vegans don't get any creatine, really.
Nope.
So.
All right. So as I said, we'll try to speed through this one. The vitamin episode, part 1, was quite long, and quite arduous, quite boring. So, probably learned a lot from it. But with this topic, it's hard to give you all the information we're trying to give you and also make it fun and engaging. So maybe Nick can step in with some comic relief from time to time during this one. All right. Unlike with vitamins, high dosing with minerals doesn't come with any benefits. With vitamin C, you'll hear of a lot of people high dosing vitamin C when they start getting sick to boost their immune system. Whether or not that actually works could be a little bit of placebo effect. We do know that placebo effect is basically one of the strongest pharmaceuticals known to man. So whether or not high dosing vitamin C actually works is not really known. Data is kind of conflicting on it, but when you come over to minerals in today's episode, high dosing minerals is not a thing, doesn't come with any benefits. So calcium, starting off with calcium. Calcium is critical to your bone tissue integrity and formation and maintenance. It contributes to nerve conduction, normal heartbeat, muscle contraction, increased cell membrane permeability, blood clotting, and blood pressure. Don't forget that calcium is one of those minerals that's considered an electrolyte, and I don't think we're not going to go deep on electrolytes today. Maybe we'll do that in another episode if the audience wants. But one of the big things with calcium is bones. We talked about that actually a little bit in the vitamin episode. So if you missed that episode, just go back and give that one a listen. But as we said, it's often taken with phosphorus and vitamin K and vitamin D. Symptoms with deficiency of calcium are poor bone formation, bone issues like osteoporosis, muscle cramps, reduced energy, and stunted growth in children. It's the whole drink milk, the Got Milk campaign. Yeah. I feel so bad for the kids nowadays that don't have Got Milk. That was like on every poster in every cafeteria when we were growing up.
Yep.
Great posters, great ad campaign. Congratulations, whoever did that ad campaign. Good job. 44.1% of people are deficient in calcium. Top food sources, dairy, of course, and then also broccoli, kale, oysters, shrimp, salmon, clams, and bone meal. So just dairy, seafood, some vegetables should be good on calcium. Next, phosphorus. Again, as we've talked about twice now, phosphorus also plays a role in your bones. There's a 1-to-2 ratio of phosphorus to calcium in your bone matrix. It's also critical for energy in the body. We've gone into the phosphate groups that are part of ATP when we've talked about creatine in the past. I forget what episode that was, but we went through that whole high school biology kind of level explanation of that. I'll link that right here. I just made a motion with my hand if you're listening, but I guess check the show notes. It also plays a role in cell permeability, fat and carb metabolism, formation of ATP, as I mentioned, enzyme activity, and fatty acid transport. Some symptoms with phosphorus deficiency are poor bone formation, weakness, fatigue, and the thing with minerals that we'll start to see as we go through some of these is that they're supposed to exist in a balance with each other. So the first example we'll see of this here is having too much phosphorus can have an adverse effect on calcium and stimulate bone loss. As I just mentioned, phosphorus and calcium have a 1-to-2 ratio in that matrix that makes up your bones. So your minerals definitely have a balance, and that's why just eating a balanced whole food diet contributes to being healthy, whereas trying to just supplement with certain things here and there can lead to issues. So with the weights wisdom from the last episode, making sure you're getting your blood work done and checking to make sure where your levels of these different nutrients are is important. With magnesium, its main roles are bone and tooth health, nervous system function, muscle function, enzyme activation. It assists calcium and potassium uptake and glycolysis. Magnesium is found in a lot of places in your musculoskeletal system. It's in bones, it's in muscles, it's in soft tissue. So having magnesium in your body enhances strength and endurance and prevents cramping. And it's depleted when your musculoskeletal system is active, especially with endurance activity. So deficiency of magnesium is more common in female athletes and in endurance athletes. Some symptoms of deficiency for magnesium are muscle weakness, irritability, nausea, and depression. And with females who are training, having a magnesium deficiency can increase their menstrual discomfort and cramps. So make sure you're not deficient in magnesium. And 52% of the population is deficient in magnesium. A lot of electrolyte powders will have some magnesium in it. Magnesium, like vitamin D and zinc, was one of those micronutrients during COVID that people really highlighted as people started to realize a lot of people were deficient in it. Some of the top food sources of magnesium are green veggies, nuts, legumes, fruit, seeds, and dairy.
So if people are going to supplement magnesium, what form should they take? Because I think there are a bunch of different forms, and some your body just doesn't absorb and it doesn't really do anything.
That's exactly correct. So when a lot of people supplement with magnesium, they just wind up, it becomes basically a laxative and they just have to poop. So the only form of magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier, because magnesium is important for helping you sleep, the only form that crosses the blood-brain barrier is magnesium threonate. So I take that before bed if I'm having trouble sleeping, or if I want to make sure I have a good night of sleep, I might supplement with magnesium threonate. A lot of people take magnesium glycinate, so you can also try that. But other forms, yeah, like Nick said, you'll just wind up using it as a laxative. So iron. All right, this one is a bit of a long one, so stick with us here. Iron is a part of hemoglobin, or in other words, the oxygen and red blood cell combination in your blood. It's also part of many enzymes and hormones. It's stored in bone marrow, spleen, and liver, and the stores in these places last a long time. But if they're depleted, they cause anemia, and this can take a long time to reverse. The anemia is common in women and endurance runners, and low-calorie athletes are going to be much more susceptible. So women that like to go on runs and only eat 1,000 calories, this one's for you. Make sure you're not deficient in iron. And if you are, it can be a process to supplement and get those levels back up. We had a conversation about this in one of my coaching groups. And most people are surprised to hear that reversing this iron anemia can be quite a process. And usually in the if you read some of the studies, they'll typically show it takes about 3 to 6 months to reverse this.
So by iron, do you mean like the actual metal? Is it the actual metal?
Yeah.
So
Fe. Iron.
Yeah, I've always kind of wondered. I kind of figured
guy,
it was, but I don't know. It's just
so these minerals. If you look at a periodic table, you might see a lot of these minerals on there.
So really dumb question, but can you just eat iron?
Yes. So this might actually shock people to find out, but the iron that like cereal is fortified with, because like we said in the last episode, a lot of cereals and grains, especially nowadays, are fortified with a lot of these vitamins and minerals, and they're just adding different synthetic forms of these vitamins, and then also some of these minerals, they're just adding them into cereals so that people aren't deficient. But with iron, if you crush up cereal in a bag, when you open the box of cereal, and then you take a magnet and move it around the bag, you'll start to get those little iron flakes. Do you remember those little boards when you're a kid that has all the little iron things, and there's the magnet on a pen, and you like make the guy's mustache or beard out of the iron filings? You can literally do that with a bag of cereal if you take a magnet.
Huh.
because of all the iron that they add to it.
And like, so do they just like shave a piece of iron metal into there?
It's literally what it looks like. So the thing with iron is there's heme iron and non-heme iron. So that iron we were just talking about would be non-heme iron. Heme is referring to hemoglobin, like I mentioned at the beginning of iron, which is that oxygen bound to the red blood cell, right? If you think back to high school biology, the red blood cell carries that oxygen around the body, and the only way to get that heme iron or hemoglobin iron is by eating meat. So your body absorbs this heme form of iron much better than the non-heme form of iron. So iron in anything but blood or meat would be non-heme iron. So the problem that people run into is so meat is about 50-50 heme iron and non-heme iron. But your body will absorb the non-heme iron when it also has heme iron.
Okay.
But if your body doesn't have that heme iron, it's not going to absorb much of that non-heme iron, which means you can build up toxic levels of that non-heme iron that just sits in your body. So the important thing here from that, I guess, is to make sure that you're eating meat if you are anemic or if you want to prevent becoming anemic. So if you're supplementing with iron, I would probably suggest supplementing with meat. Again, we're not doctors here, so talk to your doctor, but you're going to absorb a lot more of that iron if you have that heme iron. So this is back to the whole foods argument, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it seems like meat keeps popping up. Does the way you prepare it make any difference at all?
I'm not going to just like make stuff up here. So I'm not going to say any specific amount or anything, but I do know that when you cook meat, it loses like a little bit of bioavailability, a lot of these different compounds. So like creatine, when you cook meat, it's not as bioavailable. You don't absorb as much of it. But I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would just eat your meat and, you know, you'll be fine. There's no certain amount of any of these that I could tell you, like a percentage, how much you absorb or don't absorb when you cook it.
Okay.
So.
Or like, does the degree you cook it to matter? Like if you eat, like char it basically, is there...
Yeah, I don't...
Or is it just say. Like so minimal that it like doesn't matter?
I would say there's a million things to worry about before you worry about the degree of how much your meat is cooked on bioavailability. I'd say probably spend more time focusing on like getting enough sleep than that. Okay. You know, like most people don't even get 7 hours of sleep. So if you can do that, I'd say that's a better use of your time. I could look into this. I've never looked into it before, which is why I don't really know. But yeah.
All right.
Top food sources of iron are red meat, poultry, fish, liver, clams, molasses, chocolate, dark chocolate, not sugar, legumes, and fortified greens. So only 7.4% of the population has an iron deficiency. But again, if your iron depletes to levels over time and causes anemia, that can be hard to reverse. So you want to make sure that doesn't happen. All right, Nick, do you know what our next mineral is? Wow, my brain froze.
Is it zinc?
It is zinc. Zinc is known as the primary micronutrient for healing and for male fertility. So a lot of times you'll see claims of taking zinc to increase your testosterone, right? And during COVID, we saw a lot of people learning that they should make sure they're getting enough zinc to help their immune system.
Is this a like a natural sunscreen too? Because I know there are a lot of zinc oxide sunscreens out there. Yeah, but it turns you blue, doesn't it? Because I think it was a zinc-based sunscreen I put on one time, and like my skin was purple for a couple days.
Do you remember that Badger sunscreen I used to have?
Kind of.
It turned me purple.
Yes.
It was like straight zinc. So when Nick and I lived in Charleston in 2020, I'm very pale naturally. So I was able to get tan over time, but usually I just burn. So we have this like natural sunscreen that doesn't have a lot of chemicals in it. It's mostly just zinc. It's called Badger. That's like the brand, I think. So if you want to look up some sunscreen that will Casper you, as we call it in my family, turn you white, go get some Badger sunscreen. It will literally turn you white, but then like you'll start to turn like a purplish if you've already been sunburned because of the blue that Nick is talking about. So you're like a whitish purple looking color. We had a bunch of people over for 4th of July that year in 2020, and we were at the beach, and everyone was like, what is going on with this sunscreen?
Have you heard of the people in Appalachia that are blue?
Oh, I have heard about this. Yeah.
It has something to do with, I mean, because in Appalachia, like there aren't many people, so they eventually kind of end up being inbred.
Yes.
And there was a family tree that was blue for a while until they started going outside of their family tree.
Yeah.
But yeah, their skin was just blue, and I think it can be treated with something.
Yeah, I forget why exactly the skin was blue, but it did have something, as you said, to do with like their genetics, and it was like the gene pool. But yeah. They weren't like blue like Smurfs, but they just had like a slight blue tint to them. Yeah. That's crazy. Genes can do some weird things. So zinc, as I already went through, let's see, its major roles. Cell growth, testosterone production, DNA synthesis, cell replication, fertility, reproduction, prostate function, growth and repair of muscle tissue. Some symptoms with deficiency of zinc are growth retardation, loss of appetite, poor skin health, a weak immune system, night blindness, delayed sexual maturation, and impaired healing. And a decent number of people are deficient in zinc. About 12% of the population is deficient. So this was, again, one of the big supplements during COVID where people realized that zinc helps their immune system. A lot of people started taking zinc. The top food sources are oysters, meat, liver, eggs, seafood, so more of the same. And then oatmeal and whole grains fortified with zinc. Often too much zinc, especially when you just supplement with zinc, can cause lower levels of copper and magnesium. So again, these minerals have this kind of balance. I don't want to say delicate balance because there are like pretty wide ranges that you can have and be okay. But if you're just eating a normal balanced whole food diet, you're going to have balanced levels of these micronutrients. Whereas if you get away from eating whole foods, you can start to run into problems. Iodine. The only role really of iodine is your thyroid hormones, T3 and T4. If people want me to say the names, I can, but I might mispronounce them.
Go for it.
All right. You've got triiodothyronine and thyroxine. That first one's just so hard. So iodine is required for your thyroid function, which is vital to your metabolism and energy production and growth and performance. And with deficiencies, you'll see thyroid gland disorders, goiters, and different mental disorders. Deficiencies were largely gotten rid of when people started using iodized salt. They started adding iodine to salt. So people are pretty usually good in iodine. Its top food sources are, as I said, iodized salt, and then also many different types of fish and many different types of seafood.
It's in seaweed and kelp too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know my mom has this, I think it's like a kelp shaker or something, and yeah, I looked at the back and has like 300,000% of your daily iodine.
Yeah, so kelp, seaweed, fish, clams, pretty much everything from the ocean, plants and animals alike. And then also a little bit in spinach and kale and meat and dairy.
It seems like a lot of these minerals especially are big in seafood.
Yeah.
Is it in seawater?
Oh, like in ocean water?
Yeah.
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean,
because I saw something one time that it's good to just like drink ocean water here and there.
Nick, are you kidding me right now?
No, I'm serious.
Okay, this is Nick's advice, not mine.
I'm not saying it's advice. I'm asking you about it because I read it somewhere.
Have you ever tried to drink ocean water?
I mean, I feel like you do. Anytime you go in the ocean, you end up getting a gulp or two. Do you not?
I mean, it's hard to drink salt water.
Yeah.
You dehydrate yourself if you drink ocean water, I think, right?
I mean, I'm sure if you drank like a lot of it, you would.
I think, yeah.
But I don't know.
Anyway, moving on. Selenium. It is mainly an antioxidant. It prevents damage to your cells and your tissues and reduces the risk of degenerative diseases and cancers and shortens your recovery times. With deficiency, you will see lower defense against hydroperoxide free radicals, hair loss, growth retardation, pancreatic issues, muscular discomfort, and weakness. And with an excess of selenium, you could see brittle fingernails, hair loss, fatigue, abdominal pain, nausea, diarrhea, and irritability. Almost no one's deficient in selenium, only 0.3% of the population, so we won't spend much time on it. Top food sources are Brazil nuts, meat, seafood, kidneys, liver, and some whole grains. Moving on to copper. Copper is a very important part of the antioxidant SOD, also present in many enzymes and important to the formation of collagen. It's involved in energy production, melanin pigment synthesis, myelin formation on nerves, which is like the fat sheath on your nerves, immune system function, and glucose and cholesterol metabolism. So basically everything. With deficiency, you see bone abnormalities, anemia, skin pigment defects, reproductive failure, low SOD, poor connective tissue, and with an excess, you can see nausea, vomiting, hepatic necrosis, abdominal pain, and it is fatal for people with Wilson's disease to have too much copper. So if you have Wilson's disease, watch out, I guess. I don't even know what Wilson's disease is.
Yeah.
It was on there.
I don't know.
It was in my textbook. So 4.2% population, 4.2% of the population is deficient in copper. Top food sources, organ meats, especially heart, nuts, seafood, cocoa. Once again, dark chocolate has some micronutrients in it, and meat and mushrooms. This is where I expect Nick to ask if you can eat copper wire to get your copper.
Well, I kind of figured it's the same answer as the iron.
All right, with manganese. Manganese is important in energy production. It's part of many enzymes and aids in bone and connective tissue formation. Like copper, it is part of the antioxidant SOD. It's important for collagen synthesis and carb metabolism, and for recovery and injury prevention and connective tissue health. Symptoms with deficiency of manganese are growth retardation, poor bone and connective tissue formation and maintenance, low SOD, disruption of energy metabolism, osteoporosis, and arthritis. So manganese, very important for your joints. Most people are not deficient. It's in a lot of different foods, especially plant foods. So Nick, here's another win for plants, as we were joking about last episode. Brussels sprouts, spinach, peas, buckwheat, barley, beets, bananas, oatmeal, and of course meat as well. Took a quick break from the minerals to mention that after Nick almost fell asleep in the vitamin portion of this episode, his butt was falling asleep from sitting in this chair for so long. So he's currently sitting on a fluffy pillow on top of his chair.
It's helping a little bit. It's a little booster seat.
Chromium is a needed cofactor for proper functioning of insulin and also plays a role in the rate of amino acid and glucose uptake in your cells. It also plays a role in DNA and RNA metabolism and structure and expression. It aids in fatty acid and cholesterol formation in the liver, as well as energy production, tissue growth and repair, and muscle gain and fat loss. So like some of these other minerals, it seems to be involved in everything. With deficiency, you can see impaired glucose tolerance as the effect that it has on insulin, and then also poor appetite control and increased rates of diabetes and heart disease. The top food sources are meat, liver, mushrooms, black pepper, cheese, brown rice, potatoes, bread, and beer.
So it's in pretty much everything.
Again, yeah, chromium's one of those kind of trace minerals that's in everything. So molybdenum is present in enzymes involved in energy production, nitrogen metabolism, and uric acid formation. Symptoms with deficiency, not really any because no one's really deficient in it. So, but if you have excess, you could see possible gout, loss of copper, and growth retardation. Again, basically no one is deficient, and top food sources are milk, beans, bread, and organ meats.
So are you saying that I was deficient in a lot of these minerals growing up?
Is that why you're so short?
Yeah.
Me too. Nick and I were both late bloomers in high school, I guess you could say. How tall were you when you entered high school?
I think 5'1".
Yeah, I was 5'1", 93 pounds freshman year.
Yeah, I wrestled in the 106 weight class freshman year, so small guy.
Yep. Flouride. Main roles are prevention of tooth decay and bone integrity. With deficiency, we can say tooth decay and osteoporosis. With excess fluoride, we can see the modeling of teeth, negative effects on bone health, kidney, muscle, and nerve function. And a high amount of fluoride is toxic. It leads to death. So there's some contention around fluoride, especially it being in different dental products and toothpaste and in our water supply. It is a neurotoxin, and in the 40s and 50s, it was added to the water supply after scientists noticed that cities with naturally fluorinated water supplies had less cavities. So they just kind of started to notice these associations, and cities that had fluoride naturally in the water, the population had less cavities. So they figured if we add it to toothpaste and water, then people will have less cavities and dental issues. But again, it is a neurotoxin, so it's hard to kind of play the game of is it worth it or not, right?
Yeah, the way that I heard the guy started putting it into the water in the first place is he just did it on his own, kind of, and took a gamble that it wouldn't hurt anybody. So it's like in
what's the Dark Knight movie where who is it? Scarecrow wants to like put that neurotoxin in the water supply. It's like that. All right, next we have boron. Boron influences calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium metabolism and affects your hormones and the functionality of cell membranes and bone formation. Now, you'll see a lot of claims of boron affecting your testosterone levels and increasing muscle building and fat loss. So if you are looking at testosterone booster supplements, a lot of times they'll just throw like the same kinds of things in there. They'll make claims about ashwagandha and zinc and boron and some other herbals and just kind of throw them all in this cocktail and say it's a testosterone booster. The studies that I've seen don't really show that boron boosts testosterone. Maybe slightly for people that are in that low testosterone range, like under 300. So I would kind of ignore those claims if you see supplements claiming that they have boron in them and it will increase testosterone. Kind of unreliable, in my opinion, based off the scientific literature that's currently out there. We don't really see many symptoms with deficiency because not many people are deficient in boron. But with excess, we can see nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, dermatitis, fatigue, renal fatigue, and shock and nervous system irritability. And then your electrolytes are sodium, chloride, potassium, and to a lesser extent, you've got calcium, phosphate, and magnesium. We will do a deep dive if people want on the electrolytes in a future episode. Just let us know if you want to hear a episode about electrolytes. I think we got through the minerals a bit faster than the vitamins. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that was a bit quicker.
If you have any questions about these micronutrients, just let us know. And hopefully we didn't bore you to death with these episodes, but we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming on the next episode.
All right. Thank you.